for the local team, Spain Drone Team.
SDT, Spain Drone Team, runners-up of Split 1. They've got Clone number 1 and Silvio. They've also got the two brothers, Platonair and Redsheep, who are just 15 and 8 years old respectively. So after the 7 race days of our regular season, this is where our teams finished up. And sadly for Mac 1, they didn't score enough points to make it here to the Split 2 finals. But the other teams are going to be seeded and then take part in matchups, where 2 pilots from one team will race 2 from the other. The other pairs will battle each other, and then the DCL big heat that we love so much. All 8 pilots racing at the same time. And when we get to the semi-finals and the grand final later on, there'll be 2 additional big heats as well. Every one of them will score 4 points for the winner, then 3, then 2, and then 1. We'll add up all of those points from the 3 or 5 races that they've had. The winning team will progress through the tournament, but the losing team will lose a life. The teams who got here in the first 4 places, they start in the main round with 2 lives each. China Dragons and the Wildcard team, who were 5th and 6th, they've only got 1 life. Lose a race from there, and you are done for Split 2.
We have a brand new track for our Split 2 finals, of course, but it's in a new location as well. Welcome to our perfect mapping of Dubai and the Dubai International Finance Centre. A power loop on the outside to start with through 2 gates, and then 6 more gates, 3 more power loops on the inside, but they are not evenly spaced. You can't just dial in one, you have to adjust constantly as you go. There's a little bit of a couple of turns here before we head over a wall to a split S, and then the 4 gates return. This time, ladder up the left side, corkscrew over the top, split S out of it, and then a hard turn. Watch out for the railings here as you go under and then over and back under them again. Now we have a big left-hand descending turn, followed by a very hard right-hand turn over another wall. There is a shortcut in this plaza. Let's see if any pilots notice it and are brave enough to try and fly it. After you've done the tower up and down, right-hand turn here into the car park, a split S, followed by another tight turn. Watch out for the cars and that narrow gap. 1 corkscrew here, and then we'll go round again. So it's time for the first of our semi-finals. Cyclone racing against Spain Drone Team. Yayu and Raspberry against Clone number 1 and Platonair. So this is quite an interesting mix of pilots. Yayu's with Raspberry, Platonair in and out between them. Clone number 1 with them too, as they all start to go through the 3 big power loops inside the DIFC. Gotta say how impressed I am with Raspberry, flying so well, like he's been racing alongside Yayu for all season, which he absolutely hasn't. Here's Platonair going over the top and getting in a muddle on the split S entry. Recovered from that, sees him down in 4th. He's the 15-year-old brother of Redsheep and flying so well. He's got a couple of wins already in his debut split and season of the DCL. And it's looking a little away from him right now. Yayu leads Raspberry by about 0.4 of a second. Out of the car park and into this corkscrew. No problem for them. Oh, but a little bit untidy for Raspberry as he got a little bit worried about that van. There's another one there, Raspberry. Watch out. Yayu still ahead of him. And Platonair still about 3.5 seconds behind the pair of them. Clone number 1 further behind than he was. So it's up to Platonair to do anything about this early 1-2 from Cyclone Racing. Here's Raspberry's view, staying with Yayu. Just a little bit further behind than he was by 1/10 of a second or 2. And Platonair trying to gain on them. And those 4 gates, that's one of those obstacles where you think, oh, I'm nearer to them. And then you realize, actually, I've got to do all 4 of them, and they're exiting the 4th. So that gap hasn't got any smaller. If anything, Platonair has lost a little bit more time. Oh, no, Raspberry has hit the top of the roof as Yayu has come down the other side, and it's just as well Yayu did it so cleanly as Raspberry has lost about 3 seconds, and Platonair now has a target in front of him. That was otherwise just a little bit too far away. We've got 1 more lap here, and Raspberry 4 seconds behind Yayu. Does he realize that Platonair is only 1 or 2 seconds behind him? Can't afford to make any mistakes. There's Raspberry. There's Platonair now coming for the power loops and coming for you, Raspberry. Yayu has been in this position before, and although he's had a lot of problems on this track, as he was laughing about earlier on, I think he's definitely got it dialed in now. So he probably won't be phased as he makes his way around the rest of it. Raspberry is untangling that obstacle brilliantly, but Platonair has got a little bit closer. Yayu out through the window. Raspberry still about 4 seconds behind him. Platonair occasionally within a second of Raspberry. Still quite a lot to do and not a lot left to do it in. Now he'll come through the split S. Raspberry sees Yayu in front of him. Doesn't see Platonair near him at the corkscrew. He's got a safe run home. It's a 1-2 again.
Sorry, that was
Very nice.
Good shit. Boys.
Love that rerun.
You deserve the win, Raspberry.
And that's why Swan for Nissen, Yayu is one of my favourite competitors. He's just there saying to Raspberry, you deserved the win, Raspberry. He beat him by a decent amount of time, as you can see, and Platon Air finished within a second of him. Whether he thinks he deserves it or not, Yayu's now on 3 wins out of 4. Can J-Box and Neon get more points ahead of Silvio and Redsheep? So this is Platon Air's 8-year-old brother, who's absolutely fearless. And before I talk about Silvio, Neon's got to go back and make the pylon. He went the wrong side of it, and he's already 3-4 seconds behind. Oh, what a terrible start for Neon and Cyclone Racing. And he's been brilliant for them in previous seasons. Clearly, this track's just not working for him. Here's Silvio, who, as I was about to say, is the captain of SDT, an absolutely incredible pilot, letting J-Box through, though, as he just hesitated on the exit of the Split S. J-Box is all in a bit of a mess around the railings. I think his rhythm has gone. This isn't the flowing that I would expect from J-Box, and there you go, there's more problems. So he now is in 4th place, 2 seconds behind Silvio, who's already on his way down the tower. Between them, it's the other member of SDT and the other member of Cyclone. Neon's got past J-Box, who slipped even further behind. Yep, I thought so. When his rhythm had gone like that, I think he's completely lost his flow on this track. He'll get it back together, but he's lost a lot of time in doing so. Silvio out on lap 2's climb up the DIFC. Redsheep 1.5 seconds behind him, and Neon is in all kinds of trouble and come to a dead stop. The route between those gates heading towards the tower, I don't know how he was swinging so wildly. He's lost control of that completely, and he is just out of the picture here. Redsheep is only just getting out of the 4 gates. Just almost came undone for him around the Split S, but he's still flying well. Silvio, though, unfazed, out in front, as we've seen him do so many times, leading his team to what is looking like a 1-2 that will tie things up with Cyclone Racing. It could be a reverse of the previous race. They won that 7-3. Now the team in green want to get it back. Silvio onto the 3rd lap, 3 seconds ahead of Redsheep, who's at least 3 seconds ahead of J-Box and Neon. In fact, that's where Neon crashed 1 lap ago. These pilots through there without any issues. And here's Redsheep showing us how to power loop. That's nicely done. Remember, they are not evenly spaced, so he's just adjusted a little bit there. Yes, smart move, only just getting through. He looks really pleased with himself. Now Silvio leads up through the ladder. Here comes Redsheep to come up there. Silvio now doing the railings. Behind him, Redsheep is flying into that now. It's still about 3 seconds between the 2 pilots from Spain Drone Team, and then the battle from Cyclone is even further behind than it was. Redsheep going the wide way around there. Keep an eye to see if he knows about the window or if that was just a safer route, knowing that he had time. Is this going to be a tidy finish from SDT? That's a great bit of corkscrewing. That's how you wrap one up. Look at Redsheep. That's how you do them tightly. Silvio's got the 1. Redsheep, look how excited he is. He gets the 2nd place. That's the 7 points they wanted. J-Box and Neon, some mistakes earlier, and then never got back into contention. It's all tied up.
You guys,
cannot afford this much lag.
Stay focused, and we got the 44. All right, let's go, guys.
Silvio was the 2nd highest scoring pilot out of Split 2. The only one ahead of him was Yayu. Now he's got another win in his first race here in the Split 2 finals, and he beat his teammates by just over 2 seconds. And J-Box was a lot closer to Redsheep at the end. Redsheep, I think, nearly played it too safe. Now we have 3 big heats in all of the matchups from this stage onwards, now that we're into the semi-finals. So, lots more to do, many more points to fight over, 8 drones within 2/10 going around the DIFC. Yeah, they all are into the center of it now, all of the power loops, everybody's so close together. Really difficult to keep your focus on all of those power loops anyway, let alone when there's so many purple and green trails and drones in and out of your vision. As for those 4 gates, how on earth do you know where you are? Well, these are the best pilots in the world, and it's just started to stretch out now. They were so close together at the beginning, but after a lot of difficult gates, out of the window flies Yayu, and in 2nd place, 5 thousandths behind him, is Raspberry. Then we have Platon Air and Silvio in 3rd and 4th, taking out the rest of the points at the moment. After that, J-Box and Neon. After them, Redsheep and Clone number 1. So Redsheep, as we saw, so quick. You could expect him to give J-Box and Neon something to think about as he comes for the 6th and then 5th place that they're in. Raspberry is still with Yayu at the front, and Silvio just a few tenths behind them, so very, very close to just popping it out of their vision if they take any of these corners, anything less than really, really well. Yayu has found a half a second ahead of Raspberry. He's come out of there now. Raspberry still second. J-Box has moved up. I think that maybe that Platon Air and Silvio have lost some time and slipped a little bit further back. Raspberry, again flying so well. Oh, that was a dangerous line as he follows Yayu across the plaza and to the tower. Talking of the tower, I think Raspberry's in trouble there again. He took that really dangerous route before the climb. I just wonder if that upset his line to the top of it, as he is now 9 seconds behind. Just as well, J-Box is flying so well in second, not being scared of the vans. And Yayu, oh, what's that entry? Oh, climbing up the wall there. I'm not sure, maybe he nearly hit it and had to just readjust. Silvio is now giving J-Box something to think about, and that has put J-Box off completely. Silvio moved up alongside him. It upset J-Box's rhythm through those really awkward power loops, and now J-Box sees Platon Air too, and he's seeing points leaving Cyclone Racing. Yayu still got the 4 of them in hand. J-Box just about hanging on to second place, but Silvio, clone number 1, well, all of them, Platon Air and Redsheep as well, they'd all like to say something about it, and J-Box is done. The plaza has absolutely ruined him. He hit every part, every table and chair. Thankfully for him and Cyclone Racing, there's Yayu getting the 4 points for the win, but it is looking like Silvio, clone number 1, Platon Air, yes, and Redsheep. They come in second, third, fourth, and fifth. Look how excited Redsheep is. Why don't we get more pilots doing that?
Oh, that was close, Raspberry.
No dancing here.
Nothing, guys. Nothing, all right?
Yayu's got it dialed in. He's got another 4 points for Cyclone Racing, but as you saw with Redsheep cheering them on, SDT picked up all the other 6. There are only 1.6 seconds between all of SDT and Cyclone's Raspberry. So, chance for Raspberry to finish a bit higher than 6th and get more points in the pot for Cyclone Racing. And SDT go into this second big heat with that tiny advantage. 10 more points available here and a third big heat to come. So, can't rest on that little lead. Doesn't really count for very much. Does it affect the concentration of the other team that they're behind? Well, I think for a pilot like Yayu, as you can see, he just wants to be out in front anyway. Here's Redsheep, turning quite flatly there, but keeping it together. Silvio is between him and Yayu, although not for long. Raspberry just behind them in the last of the scoring positions for now. They've all got to know the track pretty well at this point, and if there are any areas that have been causing them problems, they've really got to have got that smoothed out. Silvio still on the chase, just kind of touching the lead there. Oh, the dive down. Pre-turned early for that gate. Hit it, which is very unlike him. Now Redsheep trying to hang on to the lead. I don't know if he's made that. I've got a worrying feeling he's messed up the corkscrew. Maybe had to go back and finish it. He's down in 7th place. I think he was a little too hasty over the corkscrew. Oh, his challenge is gone. Silvio, though, not out of the picture. Yayu leading them all through the power loops on lap number 2. Behind him, it's Raspberry and J-Box, and then Silvio. Then clone number 1 and Platon Air. Not too far behind them is Redsheep as well, so he's trying to stay in the battle here. Neon and this track just are not friends. Neon can't get involved in the battle for the points. He's all the way down at the back again. But out in front, Raspberry with Silvio for close company. And it's a bit shaky from Raspberry. This is Silvio. You see, he's alongside and above to try and take more speed down there. Now he'll go really well through the corkscrew. Raspberry, good job from him as well, as we saw earlier how good Silvio is at the corkscrews. Raspberry got a bit close to a van before. Got pretty close on that one, but it's still safe. Now he leads, and Silvio takes that lead from him into the power loops. Raspberry tries to hang on. There's less than 100th of a second between them at times. Raspberry comes out of here. There's Silvio just trying to stay in front of him now. We go for the split S. We go to the 4 gates. It's tight from everybody. Raspberry a bit high, and he's bounced off the descending section. That's lost some time for Raspberry. Silvio hanging in there. Here's his route now. Down through the 2 gates. Yayu just in front. 2 tenths between them. We'll go under the hurdle. We'll go for the climb. Silvio's really good here, but so is Yayu. Down through that gate. The pre-turn again for Silvio. Not scared of it. Made it work, but not quickly enough. Yayu into the corkscrew. Silvio getting it done too. Both of them doing it as well as anyone possibly could. Yayu has a great finishing turn, and Silvio, I think in all the battle, maybe he nearly forgot to finish.
That's a draw.
That's a draw. That's good. Comes down to this last one.
Yeah, sure.
So you hear Cyclone there saying that's a draw. They mean that race, which turned out to be 5 points all. 4 of them going to Yayu. 1 of them picked up by J-Box for the team in purple, and then Silvio and Redsheep between them. 5 points all in that race means that there is still a slim lead for SDT as we go into the final race between these two teams. The 5th heat, the 3rd of the big heats. Redsheep wants to get at the front of this, of course, so does Raspberry. Round the DIFC we go again. 3 more laps to settle it between these teams. Spain drone team with that 2 points advantage. And all of them so close. A quarter of a second to gain as we head into this split S. Redsheep still in the front of everybody going through the 4 gates. I thought he'd rolled around the top of it, but instead I think he did it about as tightly as he could. Raspberry is underneath him by 0.03 of a second and trying to get in front, but Redsheep and Raspberry just side by side now, up to the climb. Redsheep just has a glimpse of Raspberry there and passes him on the way back down again. Through the split S, good pre-turn by 8-year-old Redsheep. Pre-turning where you don't see the gate, you're going to fly through, and instead of doing the turn before you go through it, one of the biggest things you can do as a beginner to improve is to think about your route into the next gate, not just fly through one gate and then consider what happens afterwards. And these pilots all at the top level, all of them doing that kind of mental calculation and preparation all of the time. Redsheep are now 0.3 of a second ahead of Raspberry. Yayu not too far behind Raspberry either. So Redsheep got to keep this together. Can't afford to make any mistakes with all the enormous pressure coming towards him from Cyclone, who is 2nd and 3rd and occasionally 4th. But it's Redsheep's brother, Platon Air, who's helping keep them out of the position. What a great showing this would be for SDT if the 2 brothers are the ones who pick up the points that get them into the Split 2 grand final. Redsheep still ahead of Yayu and Raspberry, moving now on to the 3rd lap, past the obstacle where he went wrong in the last race. He now leads them to the DIFC. It's been pretty clean from everybody at the front of this. Redsheep up, Yayu, Raspberry, and we've seen Yayu moving around some positions in the power loops as he's so good at them. He's still not past Redsheep though. He's going to try and move something around here, but Yayu is only just through that split S. Now he ladders up, goes for the downward side, and the split S here has messed him up too. That is a surprise. Raspberry, though, still in the lead. Got to tidy up a little bit as Redsheep is so close to overtaking him. And now Raspberry leads them all to the tower climb. It's Raspberry just ahead of Redsheep. Then it's Yayu and then Platon Air. And if it finishes like this, it'll be 6 points to 4. That will make it 25 all. We'll have another race. Redsheep now chases Raspberry, and no, Redsheep has missed the pylon.
Let's go!
Oh, Redsheep just, I don't know what happened with Redsheep right there. That was amazing.
Oh, guys.
That's going to take it for us.
Jonathan talk, and so my PC took the focus on like the TeamSpeak things. And so like I think I got like an average of like 45 FPS. It was like, it was like crazy unplayable. Oh gosh. We made it, guys.
Congratulations to Raspberry, who held it together through all of that tight action. And with Yayu in 2nd behind him, that gave them just enough points to win this out cleanly. Redsheep did absolutely everything right. World class. Except for the final turn on the final lap. Oh, you've got to feel heartbroken for him because of that. Cyclone getting that 1st and the 2nd. That is why they're going straight to the grand finals. But SDT are not eliminated. They've lost one of their lives. That means they've got to take on Quad Force 1 in our other semi-final. So SDT against Quad Force 1 for the spot against Cyclone. Clone number 1 and Platon Air have to shake off that disappointing loss right now and go for it again with QT FPV and Hyper. Now, didn't mention much of Clone number 1 and Platon Air in those last races because the other pilots on the team, Silvio and Redsheep, were doing so well out in front. Now, Platon Air and Clone number 1 need to get some points for themselves. As you can see, if you look at the timing, that little red stopwatch near Clone number 1's name, that means he jumped the start. He went early. For that, you get a 1 second penalty of no throttle, which obviously gives everyone else a little chance to get away. So he's got to do some catching up. Platon Air has got to do some keeping up. He's between Hyper and QTFPV in a good position. Chasing Hyper now. Over the top and down again. QTFPV trying to stay in contention with the two of them. It's about the same gap between Platon Air and Hyper in front of him as there is between him and QTFPV behind him, although QTFPV suddenly has lost a lot of time and got very close to clone number 1, the other pilot for SDT. Hyper on lap number 2 towards the DIFC. Platon Air still got him dialed in, targeting him, got him in his sights. Half a second between them as they go through the power loops. All 4 of them in there now. And clone number 1 doing a good bit of work trying to gain on QTFPV for 3rd. Here's Platon Air, who's not quite gaining on Hyper for 1st. Oh, that's not going to help him. Platon Air gets caught out on the 4 gates. Still in 2nd, though. Clone number 1 and QTFPV have both lost some time there as well. So Hyper, not troubled, out in the lead. Big gap between him and Platon Air, who's just starting the climb now. The gate at the top, Hyper's missed it. He's got to come back for it. You just saw him flash across Platon Air's view there as Platon Air went through it and past him. Hyper just completely overshot it at the top, had to come back. Awkward route, lost a lot of time. He's now 3/10 behind in 2nd. And this is the final lap. Here's Hyper, sees Platon Air. He wasn't there before, and he's got to make sure he's not kicking himself too hard after that mistake he made. Now, Platon Air is pretty good here. Can Hyper do anything about this gap between them? He doesn't need to worry yet about clone number 1 in 3rd, who is a lot closer to 2nd place than he has been for a lot of this race. Platon Air into the 4 gates. Hyper trying to move on the inside of him. Hyper just squeezes past. That's good flying from Hyper. Now he's got to keep it up, but he didn't give himself much room to spare around the railings. He hangs on to 1st. Platon Air about a 10th of a second or less. They're side by side. Platon Air does the climb 1st, leads Hyper down through the gate, got more speed. It's great work from Platon Air. He leads out through the car park. Hyper trying to catch him. There's just over a 10th of a second between them. There's the pylon that caught out his brother, but it doesn't stop Platon Air. The win is his. Hyper 2nd, then clone number 1. It's just 4/10 of a second that separated Platon Air from Hyper on that final turn, and only 4 seconds between all 4 pilots. Congratulations, Platon Air, the young pilot getting another win in the DCL. Here comes his brother Redsheep and Silvio against Amari and Propsicle. This could be a real scrap between pilots who have got this course well dialed in. Silvio, great for SDT. Propsicle, clearly the best from Quad Force 1. Don't count out Redsheep. And Amari, he could make a bit of an upset here too, but he's nowhere near as experienced as the other pilots are on DCL tracks. Let's find out. Redsheep currently leads them all. Propsicle with him. Everybody into the 4 gates. Now we're on our way with Silvio leading out Propsicle, Amari, Redsheep in that order, but only a second between all 4 of them. This one feels like it may not have many mistakes in it. Instead, it may just be dramatic moments of brilliant, clean flying. We'll work it out. Silvio still with Propsicle. Those two starting to pull away a little bit from Redsheep and Amari. Now we've got 1 lap done. Silvio ahead of Propsicle now, round the bend, then heading towards the DIFC and through the gates here to do the climb with 0.04 of a second between these 2 superstar pilots. Through the power loops. I don't think one of them is really significantly better than the other in this section. Power loops, all done. Propsicle still in front of Silvio. 1/10 between them. Into the 4 gates here. There's the ladder up for Silvio. Over the top, and a split S out is good as it has been before. He's put 3/10 between him and the best pilot from Quad Force 1. Round the pylon into the dive here. Just a little adjustment here and there, which is allowing Propsicle to get a bit nearer to him, as you can see. That gap is about halved. Now down through the tower. Right-hand turn towards the car park. Here comes the split S. Silvio again on the right-hand side there. He likes making a wider turn at the end. Propsicle still about 3/10 behind him. Where is Silvio going to get away? To the DIFC. It's all been pretty perfect so far. It's going to need to be. Is anybody going to break first out of these 2 pilots? Redsheep and Amari not getting a look in on this battle for 1st and 2nd. Silvio weaves towards the 4 gates. Propsicle is almost perfect on this obstacle. It's beautiful watching him fly, but Silvio's gone high, and Silvio has missed the re-entry for the 4th gate, and that's lost him almost 4 seconds. And he's the one to break first. Propsicle is away. Redsheep, who was down in 3rd, is now up into 2nd as Silvio has lost even more time. I don't think there's much chance of Propsicle making such a big mistake that Redsheep can catch him from almost 3 seconds behind. It's great work from Redsheep. It's brilliant as always from Propsicle.
Let's go. Gosh, slow from me. Crap. Sorry.
Yes, that was Propsicle apologising for being a bit slow. 2 minutes and 32.049 seconds. 2 seconds ahead of Redsheep, who put in such a good challenge. But yes, Propsicle, just a bit slow there. Sorry, Quad Force 1 fans. I say sorry to SDT and anyone who's got a race against him. All of them do now, as it's the big heat. And 11 points to 9. That's SDT's lead over Quad Force 1. It was 6 points to 4, and then they've just tied everything up there. So the big heats, that's how we're going to split these two teams. Are SDT going to make it to a battle with Cyclone again, as they did at the end of the Split 1 finals, or a Quad Force 1 going to still be in the contest as they were at the World Championship finals at the end of last year? We'll find out. Propsicle, Redsheep, Hyper, Platon Air, some names we know pretty well now, weaving their way to the railings. Here comes the turn and then into the dive. And it's SDT in first, second, and third. Hyper just squeezing between them. Propsicle right on the edges of getting into those scoring positions too. Now Hyper has hit the gate at the bottom of the dive and gone all the way to the back. Earlier on, he had problems with going through the gate at the top of the tower. This time, the dive has caught him out. Looks like Propsicle's going to have to be the one who keeps them in contention here. Redsheep, Silvio, then Propsicle, and Platonair's just lost a few tenths on that leading 3 pilots. Through the power loops they go all together. Amari still hanging in the battle. QTFEV not too far behind it. Redsheep and Silvio. Propsicle drops in between them. Gives them an extra thing to think about. Silvio only just through that gate there. Maybe just got a little bit put off by that. Redsheep round the railings. There you go. You see that tight turn that everybody has to do. Now he's down through the 2 gates here, and Propsicle following him about a tenth behind, just slightly closer there after the window. Now down through the tower dive. Redsheep still in front of him, going direct, as is Propsicle, and they're both ahead of Silvio and then Platon Air. They're third and fourth, so still most of the points positions being taken up by SDT again. But remember, this is only the first of 3 big heats now that we're into the semi-finals, so many more points available to come and get. Propsicle won't settle for second here, though, and the 3 points that comes with that. He'd like to get the extra one, and he's just trying to get past Redsheep to do it. Now, we're coming up to those 4 gates that Propsicle is basically perfect on, particularly his split S out. And it looks like Redsheep has learned from him. There it is! That left-hand turn. Some pilots like to go right out of that split S, or roll into it from the opposite direction, which is just a little bit slower. Propsicle is doing it quicker than everybody, and Redsheep has figured out how. Not much of this third lap to go. A quarter of a second between these 2 pilots. Propsicle still ahead of Redsheep, who's got him right in his sights now. And that's a great bit of corkscrewing, and the gap's getting smaller, but it's the last turn. Redsheep goes for it.
Come on.
Great decision from Redsheep to go so direct there, but it's still 1/10 of a second between him and Propsicle, and Redsheep shakes his head.
Gosh, I hate
Damn it. Nice job, Rob.
I was literally in fifth, I think, until the final little double do before the truck.
Amari just explaining where he lost some time. 13/100ths of a second. That's all the time. That was between Propsicle and Redsheep at that amazing finish. So Propsicle gets another win. Only just. That's his 5th so far. Thing is, Quad Force 1 fans, the gap's got bigger, as although he won it and got 4 points, SDT got 6. If we'd extended the points further down, clone number 1 would have scored as well. He was in 5th place. SDT with a bigger lead. Now, QTFPV has jumped to the start, so he had a 1-second throttle penalty. Out of the other Quad Force 1 pilots, it seems the only one who could possibly keep up with the top 4 is Hyper. He's in 4th at the moment. Can he go and get more points from that position? We know that Propsicle has really got this flowing very nicely for him. So, though, do these guys. Silvio from SDT, Redsheep in that battle. Platon Air in and out of it as well. Oh, Propsicle's hit the ground after that dive. Where you come out of the railings and you go down through one of the gates and turn left and then right. He's hit the ground just around that gate. Now it's only Hyper who's sort of in contention. I say sort of because it seems that 3 of the SDT pilots have just got to grips with this whole Dubai environment a bit better than Propsicle and Hyper. Propsicle out of the points. Hyper in 3rd. Still trying to split this SDT stranglehold on the lion's share of the points. He's in 2nd. Platon Air is desperately trying to squeeze past him through the power loops on the 2nd lap. Now they'll swing for the split S and head up to the 4 gates. It's still Hyper between 2 of the SDT pilots, and Propsicle just trying to nudge ahead of Silvio now. Redsheep is out of the railings very nicely. Hyper still in 2nd. It's Propsicle who's now closest to him. Got past Silvio. Oh, this is starting to move for Quad Force 1. Currently, though, it's that 5 points all situation that nobody wants to be in. First and fourth being cancelled out by second and third. Nothing will change in this gap and this lead that SDT have. Redsheep in the front. 1 lap to go. Hyper, then Propsicle within a second of him. Silvio just a little bit further behind. A lot of pressure again on 8-year-old Redsheep as Hyper and Propsicle are trying to catch him, and they're good on these power loops. All of them are. Silvio still in fourth, still over a second behind his teammate, not ready to be in support if Redsheep gets into any difficulties. And he does! Oh, just as I said that, he's gone too high into the first gate of those 4. That bounced him and sent him forward out of his line. He's dropped down to 4th place behind Silvio, who is still a second behind this pair. Oh, Quad Force 1 have an opportunity here to tie things up when it was looking like it might just be too much for them to do. This is Propsicle, who's in second. Ahead of him, there's another 4 points coming their way. Thanks to Hyper, they've gone and got it.
Let's go!
Let's
Come on!
go.
Come on!
Yeah.
Get that crap to me! Holy crap, I had a crash on the first lap.
You came back
I've not
almost
tried
2
that
seconds.
hard
Crap.
in a while.
Crap. Oh my gosh.
Hot
You're like
dang.
1-9 down in the first lap, and you came back 2 seconds.
Just 12 thousandths of a second between Hyper and Propsicle at the end, and Redsheep was within a second of getting the win too. Hyper needs to step up, has done so there. And Propsicle, as you heard, yeah, that crash on the first lap. What a recovery from there, though. So it's 20 points all. We have this big heat to go. If it's tied up with 5 points all out of this race, then we will have another sudden death like we did at the end of the first matchup today. I don't know if the pilot's nerves could take it, but I would be happy to watch these teams racing all day long. Who's at the front? Well, for SDT, it's clone number 1 currently. Redsheep and Platon Air around there too. From Quad Force 1, of course, it's Propsicle and Hyper. This is clone number 1, who we haven't seen a lot of. James Govey out of the UK, racing for SDT. Previously used to race for China Dragons, but joined Spain Drone Team earlier on this year. Just getting a little bit left behind now. It was a solid start from him, but he's clearly not got to grips with this course quite as quickly as the other pilots of SDT. Now Redsheep only just getting through there. Finding himself out of the scoring points at the moment, following QT. That's not a pilot he's found himself behind very much today. Hyper, then Propsicle, and Platon Air and Silvio, all within 4/10 on the second lap. These power loops, everybody's found it, haven't they? There's no danger to anyone in there. Silvio trying to catch Hyper, trying to go through on some of those turns, wider on one to be quicker on the inside of another, and it was all very good for him. And there's that left-hand turn out, but Hyper matches it. 500ths between those two, as now they'll go for the dive down. That's where Propsicle crashed earlier on. Not this time. Hyper still through the window just ahead of Silvio. Still less than 1/10 of a second between these two pilots. Silvio again using his cornering. There's that right-hand swing that he does. And he's trying to use that into a better left-hand turn out of the car park, but Hyper matches it again. One more lap. Silvio and Hyper, 300ths of a second, sometimes even less than that, to the climb around the DIFC. Now the power loops. It's got to be Hyper. Everybody else on Quad Force 1 is a little bit too far behind right now. Platon Air is in third. It's going to be 6 points to 4 for Spain Drone Team if it finishes like this. And now Hyper and Propsicle are going to try and break those green scores. It's all stripes on the timing. A battle for 1 and 2, a battle for 3 and 4. Silvio leading that battle for 1 and 2. Through the window. Hyper behind him. Propsicle's got to move on Platon Air. Hyper's got to get past Silvio. Something's got to change, or SDT are bringing this to the split 2 grand final. Now to the corkscrew. Hyper's trying to get around him. 4 points await the winner, and they are going to Silvio.
Gosh dang
Hyper
it.
second,
No,
and Platon Air
Hyper,
gets
that was a
third,
battle.
which takes
I couldn't hold
SDT
him in
to
the
the
end.
grand final.
Yeah, I messed up halfway through that last lap pretty bad.
That was a battle, Hyper. Holy shit.
Silvio, the second highest scoring pilot in the whole of the regular season, and yet that's only his second win today. And in fact, only 0.3 of a second separated Hyper from taking that to a tie-breaker race. Instead, SDT win this out and will go to our split 2 grand final, but by the tiniest of margins, 26 points to 24. That's as tight as it can be. SDT will go into a rematch with Cyclone of the Split 1 Grand Final, and sadly Quad Force 1 find themselves eliminated at this stage, as they have so often in the past, in third.
So here it is, our grand final of Split 2, and it's a rematch of Split 1s. There we were in Abu Dhabi, here in our virtual environment of Dubai. Good luck to Cyclone Racing and SDT, Yayu and Raspberry for the team in purple against Platon Air and Clone number 1 for the team in green. Now, earlier on when they faced each other in the semi-finals, it was Yayu and Raspberry who beat Clone number 1 and Platon Air. Here's Raspberry in second place at the moment, now heading up to the 4 gates, and is coming down through the split S just a little bit too tightly. Now that sent him a fraction behind Platon Air, but Clone number 1 still behind him in 4th. Yes, it was Yayu and Raspberry who beat Platon Air and Clone number 1 earlier. Same pairings here. And the pilots are paired up without knowing who their opposition are going to face against them. So Cyclone choose Yayu and Raspberry to take in a race without knowing that Platon Air and Clone number 1 have been picked opposite them. So there's a little bit of a tactical gamble going on there as well. Currently it's striped. Yayu, now Raspberry, in second, just squeezed past Platon Air, which means it's gone from a 6-4 to a potential 7-3 for Cyclone. There's Raspberry doing such a great job of the power loops on lap number 2. Platon Air just trying to stay with him, look very close. A bigger gap between those two and Yayu, who is clean out in front. He whizzes his way to the railings with his teammate Raspberry staying with him. Platon Air just a little fraction further behind second than he was. Both of them through the window. Good flying from Raspberry. Yayu out in the lead. There's the gate from the dive and heading to the split S. This is looking pretty solid, as expected from Cyclone. And we know SDT are good around here, but it's their other pilots who are better. I think these two first heats could be a bit of a mismatch. Yayu with the right-hand turn, followed by Raspberry, and up they go around the DIFC. Platon Air trying to catch the two pilots from Cyclone. He's through the... No, he's only just through the first gate and he's missed the entry to the second, and that's cost him a lot of time. Platon Air, usually so good in the power loops, but couldn't get that first one threaded together from the start. Raspberry here, though, is giving him a chance to get back in, as Raspberry has bounced off the 4 gates. So Yayu, no issues for him out in front, but second maybe not quite so secure as Cyclone would wish it would be. Platon Air still got a lot to do and only about half a lap to do it in. Raspberry in second here, swinging through the car park. Yayu still ahead of him. It's looking like a solid 1-2 to get this thing started. There's Yayu into the finish. He'll be happy to get a clean run there.
Nice one, Raspberry.
Very, very
Nice.
nice.
Beautiful. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, good. Really proud of you guys. Neon, same thing, dude.
It's the same result as when those 4 pilots faced each other in the semi-finals. Yayu and Raspberry getting a 7-3 to early start over Platon Air and Clone number 1. That's Yayu's 6th win of the day in 8 races. Here come the others, Silvio and Redsheep. They're up against J-Box and Neon, and they want to turn it around, but that's exactly what they did in the second heat of the semi-finals. So are we going to get a repeat of that one as well? SDT really need them to, and given the lineups, Redsheep and Silvio, you'd expect them to probably beat out J-Box and Neon, particularly how well everybody has been flying on this track. Outside of Dubai, J-Box was absolutely essential for Cyclone in 2023 when Cyclone Racing first joined the Drone Champions League. And then Neon was absolutely brilliant for them towards the end of the year, and they've both been important to the team, of course. But this track doesn't seem to suit either of them as strongly as it does for Silvio and Redsheep on the SDT side of things. Do watch Silvio after this turn. Yes, look how far over to the right he is compared to Redsheep. That's that route that he likes to do for that last split S coming out of the car park. He stays in the lead ahead of Redsheep by 0.2 of a second. J-Box about 0.3 behind the pair of them. Neon trying to keep up into the DIFC. We fly again. Down and then into the center section where we do all these power loops between the 2 parts of the DIFC. And Neon is caught on the last one. Neon was flying much better than he has done around Dubai. He's had so many difficult runs and come in last in many times, which is very uncharacteristic of him. He's got caught out on the 3rd of those power loops, and it looks like he probably won't get back into the battle from there. So it's up to J-Box for Cyclone, or we are going to get a repeat of the semi-final run, and we are going to get this thing all tied up. Watch Silvio here. You see from Redsheep, look where Silvio is across him on the right, turns and flies across him to the left to make that turn out of the car park. That's the route he's trying to thread together there. A little bit different than I think everybody else. And Silvio now coming around the roundabout part wide and quickly and still, importantly, in the lead. Lap number 3, Redsheep just about half a second behind his teammate and captain Silvio. J-Box a little bit further behind second. Remember, 6-4. That would be much better than 7-3 in this early stage. J-Box heading into the 4 gates now with SDT still in front of him, but J-Box is doing that better than I've seen him do it any other time. That was absolutely brilliant, and he slashed that gap between him and Redsheep, and now on the charge. And Redsheep is out through there. Silvio is having to adjust. Redsheep still going the long way around that window. That's possibly giving up a little bit of time. It's now only about 200ths between him and J-Box for second place. Silvio still ahead. Where's J-Box now? Oh, it's green in 1 and 2 as J-Box was almost there and hasn't actually finished until now.
It's all good. It's all good. It's tied up. It's the
No,
4v4s.
it's not good.
It's the 4v4s where we get them. Don't worry, we'll get the points there.
J-Bot saying it's not good. He's not happy with that run, understandably, but Brett and his manager trying to calm things down. Okay, there's 3 big heats to come. We'll get the points there like we did earlier. Silvio and Redsheep, essential there. 7-3, tying it up exactly as they did in the semi-finals. So nothing currently between these two teams, but when they raced in the semi-finals and had the 3 big heats there, Yayu won 2 of them, Raspberry the other. They were all Cyclones. So SDT cannot let that happen now. J-Box looking very determined. Everybody in the DIFC power loops together. What great racing. Half a second between all of them in the grand final. This is pressure, and this is great skill of flying for everyone. J-Box just holding that lead. Silvio trying to get it from him, but it's still J-Box's at the moment. Here's his view, just seeing green drones coming around the back. He leads everyone now towards the tower. Silvio, Raspberry, Plat on air. J-Box up and just lost that lead by going the wrong way out of it and seemingly going much slower than he should be as well. I don't think he hit it. It just seemed to sort of slow down for him. Bit of indecision, maybe? Surely not at this stage of the finals. Anyway, Silvio leads Cyclone's Raspberry to the DIFC. And Raspberry through the power loops, but no, making a mess of the first one. Oh, and he now sees Yayu in front of him. So as J-Bot makes a mistake, Raspberry goes past. As Raspberry makes a mistake in the power loops, Yayu leaps up to save Cyclone. This is really one of their strengths, that all of their pilots can step up when are needed. And of course, Yayu, most of all, best pilot in the Split 2 regular season and has so many wins already today. He's going to need to get another one in Cyclone's hopes. Otherwise, SDT are currently in a 7-3 winning situation. We're nearly onto the final lap for all these pilots. And Silvio and Plat on air now ahead of 3 Cyclone pilots and going around the roundabout to start that 3rd lap. Just 2,000ths between them momentarily. But now Silvio sees Yayu just coming up on him. Plat on air's got a better view of Yayu and what he's doing. Yayu pulling away from Plat on air, trying to gain on Silvio. Now they come down to the ground level and Yayu has hit the pylon on that turn. I don't think anybody has hit that since one of the earliest races today. Oh, on the turn before the split S, Yayu crashes into that hard. Silvio Plat on air 1 and 2, but here comes Cyclone past Plat on air through the plaza. Great turn of speed from them. They're back into 2nd and 3rd. They are never, ever completely out. Raspberry back in that chasing position. Plat on air scrapping with Yayu. Got to fight to the end. It's proof right here. Is it Raspberry? No, Silvio's got the win. And then who's 3rd? It is Plat on air.
Second lap, 3rd lap.
Let's finish.
Putain.
Oh man.
Ah, j'en ai marre de ce mec.
Possible.
J-Box looks so unhappy with his finish there. Ahead of him, Plat on air, and then Silvio and Raspberry. They were less than 0.2 seconds apart. With Silvio's win and Platon's 3rd, that's going to mean SDT have a 16 points to 14 narrow lead. But in the Split 1 finals, at this stage, it was 17 to 13 the other way round. At that Split 1 finals, Cyclone became the champions. SDT are ahead of them right now. Yes, they'd love to win a rematch. Of course they would at any time, particularly in a finals. Coming out of the power loops, all the pilots about 7/10 of a second between them. Swinging to the split S and now coming into the 4 gates. And Redsheep's the first one to make a very small mistake. He's hit the ladder up and Yayu is on an interesting lean there. Putting a little bit of a roll in. Other pilots tend to fly that level. Here's Platon Air going into the wall. Oh, everyone else shoots over the top of him, but Platon Air getting left behind after the dive gates just didn't rise up enough to come out of it. There is that wall in front of you, just keeping you on your toes that you've got to pull out of that dive really quickly. Starting the second lap first, Yayu. Silvio, almost a second behind him after only 1 lap. That's a big gap between Spain Drone Team and Yayu. Is it going to be Yayu versus the world again? Well, he's power looping brilliantly, so what are you going to do about it, Green Team? Well, Silvio's going to try and keep with him. Redsheep and Clone number 1 are struggling. They've been caught by Raspberry and J-Box. Silvio versus the world instead. Look at that. That's absolutely fantastic. And all the beautiful texturing and floor patterns around there don't help you stop getting dizzy watching a pilot flying like that. Yayu extending his lead over Silvio. Just getting this so beautifully put together now. Silvio far over to the right. Watch, there's the turn. Cuts that corner. Comes out of it and then tries to cut through the car park as well. It's good, but nevertheless, he's still further behind Yayu than he was. Doesn't seem like Yayu's pulling anything extra special here. It's just smooth is fast all the way round. Now, what can Silvio do? Well, these power loops are excellent. Look, there's barely any room to spare. That's really good and very smooth. And if smooth is fast, then Silvio is doing that part very, very right. Yayu out of the gates here. Now on that lean again, interestingly. He's gone around the railings with the big power loop there, and so has Silvio trying to close the gap on him. It's looking like Yayu might not be stopped here. He's so clean. Everything Silvio is doing, and he's being a bit more aggressive now, trying to gain on Yayu. But look at this. It's just so smooth. Yayu, perfect run. Just 1 more gate to go. And he hits the final gate, and he's on the floor, and he's missed the finish, and Silvio has beaten him.
Right in there.
Come on. Oh,
Let's go.
let's go.
We don't even have to push. Look at them.
It's too much. This trap.
They sound like they're like an inch behind you, about a mid-air you. And then you finish, and it's like, oh, dude, they're miles back. That's easy.
Yayu ends up 4 seconds behind Silvio. He's devastated to have lost that race, and this man was completely stunned to have picked up the most points out of it. Such a dramatic finish. And with that, it is 20 points all going into the last race. Now, earlier on in the semi-finals, Cyclone won all 3 of the big heats, but here we are in the grand final, and SDT have won both of the big heats so far. Surely, the way they are flying, SDT, despite the points being even, are feeling like today could be the day. They have never won a split. They've never won the World Championship. Could this be the time? Cyclone are going to say, absolutely not. You'll have to take it from us with everything you've got, as they are all top 4 positions. We're on board with Neon, who we haven't seen so much of, and he is just totally stuck in the plaza. Okay. 1 place up for grabs for SDT. Silvio and Redsheep both trying to move past Raspberry and make that stick. They do. Now Silvio is up past J-Box. He's up in a second. Spain Drone Team trying to get past the Cyclone pilots and have to outscore them here. To the DIFC, it's Yayu again who's in the lead, trying to shake off that disaster from the last run. Oh, but he's messed up the middle part of the power loops where he's been absolutely flawless all day. Oh, Yayu down to 7th, and another spot is available in the top 4, and SDT want it. It was 10-0 to Cyclone. Then they were in a 6-4 position. Now SDT are in the 6-4 position. Is it going to work out for SDT? Will this be the first time they get a title? We are over the halfway point. Silvio coming down now on that right-hand route he likes so much. J-Box trying to stay with him. Redsheep is very, very close to passing J-Box. We have 1 lap to go. Raspberry just behind Redsheep, who's just behind J-Box, and then there's a bit of time between him and Silvio. You see Silvio with clear air there as he goes first around the DIFC. Behind him, J-Box, Redsheep, Raspberry, swapping places with Redsheep. Can he make it stick? Can he hang on to that third place? At the moment, Silvio has still got the lead. Silvio's been exceptional on this obstacle all day, but he's gone the wrong way! Out of the split S, he turned fractionally right, whereas normally he is amazing at turning left, doing it better than everyone else has except for this run. And now he's in third. Ahead of him, it's Raspberry and J-Box, and Silvio's won the last 3 races in the finals. He's won more races in the Split 2 season than the whole rest of STT combined. But this one is the one which sees Cyclone become back-to-back champions!
Oh,
Come on.
There it is. There it is.
easy.
Look at that, boys.
So easy.
No stress. No
Give me
worries.
Legos. Bought me
That's
some
who won
Legos.
the Split 2 final. Let's go. Let's
Just
go,
easy.
boys.
That's simple.
Yeah, dude, I told you. Just
Yeah,
don't crash.
exactly.
Just don't crash.
Yeah.
Get through the gates.
Oh my
Dude,
god.
that track is like 90%, like 110% the entire time. God.
A real mixture of responses there. J-Box so happy. Yayu looking like his team just lost the whole thing. Just 2 seconds between Silvio taking SDT to a tiebreaker there, and this man J-Box winning it for Cyclone Racing. With those points, it becomes 27 to 23. Congratulations to Cyclone Racing. They are the back-to-back DCL Split Champions in 2024. The final tournament bracket looks like this. Cyclone against SDT, a rematch of the Split 1 finals. Raiden were third at those finals, but they end up in fourth here behind Quad Force 1. China Dragons and the Wildcard team, they end up as they finish the regular season. What an incredible Split 2. Thank you again to all of our partners and for all of you for watching. Stay tuned. Split 3 coming soon. From me, Matt Andrews and the DCL. We'll see you in the skies!
Welcome to Abu Dhabi, the home of the A2RL. After the spectacular launch of the Autonomous Racing League in 2024, A2RL and Aspire are expanding their program to an autonomous drone racing competition. Together with the Drone Champions League, the World Championship of Professional Drone Racing Teams,